Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're going deep on a classic, The Interpretation of Dreams by Sigmund Freud.
Oh, great choice.
It's one of those books, well, everybody's heard of it, but
Yeah,
not everyone's actually read it.
right.
You,
It's dense.
it is, it is. So
Yeah.
we're going to really try to break it down for you today
Yeah.
and give you I don't know, some actionable stuff,
Yeah, absolutely.
because everyone dreams.
Right.
So, it's why not try to learn something about what your dreams are trying to tell you?
Right. Well, that's what's so fascinating about this book is that it gave us a whole new language for understanding this hidden part of ourselves, the unconscious mind.
Right.
And, Freud's argument that our dreams aren't just random nonsense, but that they're these symbolic representations of our deepest desires and anxieties.
Okay, but how does that actually help us? I mean, I know dreams can be weird and symbolic, but what am I supposed to do with that information?
Think of it this way. Your dreams are like these personal messages from your unconscious, right? They're
Okay.
full of clues about unresolved issues, hidden desires, even things from your childhood that
Ah.
are still affecting you today.
So if I'm constantly dreaming about showing up to work naked,
Yeah.
that's not just a random embarrassing scenario. It's actually
Yeah,
telling you
yeah,
something.
exactly. Freud called these typical dreams themes that pop up again and again in people's dreams.
Right.
And he found that they often relate back to, childhood experiences and anxieties.
Okay. So being naked in public, that classic nightmare scenario, what could that potentially tell us about someone's childhood?
Well, Freud argued that it goes back to a time when nakedness wasn't shameful. As
There.
children, we don't have the same societal anxieties about our bodies, right? So the dream highlights the contrast between that carefree childhood state
Okay.
and the adult world's anxieties about exposure.
That's interesting. So even though the dream is about being naked, it's not really about being naked, right? It's more about
Yeah.
feeling exposed or vulnerable in
Precisely.
some other area of life.
And that's the key to dream interpretation.
Yeah.
It's looking beyond the surface. It's asking yourself what that symbol might represent in your life. Maybe you're feeling judged or insecure in a new job
Right.
or worried about a secret being revealed.
Right.
The dream is using the nakedness as a metaphor.
So it's our dreams are speaking in code, and we need to learn how to crack that code to understand the message.
Exactly. And Freud gave us some tools for doing just that. He argued that every detail in a dream,
Right.
even the seemingly insignificant ones, can be symbolically charged.
Speaking of details, there's this one dream that Freud uses in his book that always stuck with me. And it involves a policeman, a group of tramps, a church, and a mountain. Can we break that down just as an example of how to decode the symbolism?
Absolutely. Let's start with the policeman. He represents authority, and in Freudian terms, that often connects to the superego, that internalized voice of rules and restrictions.
So the policeman could represent the dreamer's own sense of guilt or
Exactly.
moral judgment. Okay.
Now, the tramps, on the other hand, often represent repressed desires, the parts of ourselves we deem unacceptable or shameful.
So we have this tension, right?
Exactly.
Between authority and rebellion, between superego and id kind of playing out in the dream landscape. What about the church and the mountain?
Well, the church, is a loaded symbol. It could represent organized religion, but it can also represent moral guidance, forgiveness,
Right.
or even hypocrisy.
And the mountain, I'm picturing a big imposing obstacle, something difficult to climb.
Yeah, that's a great interpretation. The mountain could represent the dreamer's ambitions, the challenges they face in life,
Right.
or even their spiritual aspirations. It's about striving, but also about potential obstacles.
It's fascinating how many layers of meaning can be packed into a single dream image. What's even more interesting is that Freud found that people often resist analyzing certain types of dreams. He talks about these dreams involving teeth.
Ah, yes, the infamous tooth dreams. People were often uncomfortable discussing them, but Freud believed they held a significant symbolic meaning, particularly for men. He connected them to anxieties around masturbation, drawing on the symbolism of teeth, pulling out,
Yeah.
certain colloquialisms.
Okay, I can see why those dreams might make people squirm a little bit, but it seems like we're seeing a pattern here. Whether it's nakedness, death, or teeth falling out, These typical dreams often point back to anxieties and experiences from
Exactly. That was one of Freud's key insights, the lasting impact of early childhood
Right.
on our unconscious minds. Those early experiences, even the seemingly insignificant ones, continue to shape our thoughts, behaviors, and
Mhm.
dreams. It's like our childhood selves are whispering to us through the language of dreams.
So paying attention to those recurring themes, especially the ones that make us uncomfortable,
Yeah.
is a good starting point for understanding what our dreams might be trying to tell us.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to dig a little deeper. Ask yourself, what was happening in my life around the time I had this dream?
Yeah.
What emotions were present?
Right.
What personal associations do I have with the symbols that
Oh
appear?
my God. I'm already thinking about my own dreams in a whole new light.
Yeah.
This is like, I don't know, like we've been given this personal decoder ring for our own minds.
And the more we use it, the more fluent we become in the language of dreams. We start to see those recurring patterns, those personal metaphors, those
Yeah.
hidden messages that our unconscious is trying to convey.
This is incredible. It's like we've just scratched the surface of this vast hidden world within ourselves. But like, how do we go beyond just recognizing the symbols?
Yeah.
How do we actually start to like unravel the deeper meaning of our dreams?
Right.
That's what I'm really curious about. Okay, so we've talked about how to spot those symbolic messages in our dreams, but it's like our unconscious is playing this game of hide and seek, right?
Yeah.
Freud talked about dream distortion, how our dreams kind of disguise their true meaning.
Yeah, and dream distortion is a fascinating concept. It's like our unconscious mind is a master of disguise, using a whole arsenal of tricks to keep those unacceptable desires hidden from our conscious awareness.
Okay, so let's like break down those tricks a little bit. One that you mentioned earlier was condensation. Could you remind me like how that works again?
Imagine your dream as a crowded elevator, right? And you see your boss, your childhood bully, and that judgmental aunt all crammed in there with you. That's condensation. Multiple people, ideas, or feelings all mashed together into one single dream image.
So it's like my unconscious is trying to save space in my dream world by like combining all those characters
Right, yeah.
into a single anxiety-inducing elevator ride.
That's one way to think about it, but it's more than just efficiency. Condensation allows those taboo desires to sneak past the censor.
Right, the censor. That's like the bouncer at the club, making sure nothing too scandalous gets into our conscious awareness.
Precisely. By merging those unacceptable thoughts with more harmless ones, our dreams create a sort of camouflage, a disguise that makes it harder for the censor to spot those forbidden desires.
So how do we decode that camouflage? How do we unravel those condensed layers of meaning?
One technique Freud used was free association. Let's say you dream about that crowded elevator. Instead of trying to interpret the whole thing at once, just focus on one element, maybe that judgmental aunt. What thoughts or memories come to mind when you think about her?
Well, my aunt, she always criticized my career choices, like made me feel like I wasn't living up to her expectations.
Interesting. So perhaps the elevator, representing those feelings of being trapped or suffocated, is connected to your career. Are you feeling pressured in your current job?
Now that you mention it, yeah, kind of. I've been feeling really stifled lately, like I'm not able to express myself fully.
See, by following those free associations, by letting your mind wander freely, you start to uncover those personal connections and symbolic meanings.
It's amazing. It's like we're piecing together this puzzle using our own memories and associations as the guide.
Exactly. And displacement is another piece of that puzzle. It's similar to condensation, but instead of combining elements, displacement shifts the focus from one thing to another.
So give me an example of displacement in action.
Let's say you're furious with your boss, but you can't express that anger directly. You might have a dream where you're yelling at a dog or kicking a trash can. The anger is still there, but it's been displaced onto a safer, less threatening target.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like our dream mind is trying to protect us, letting us vent those intense emotions without causing too much damage.
Precisely. It's a way of fulfilling those repressed desires in a disguised form while simultaneously protecting our conscious minds from their full impact.
So condensation is about combining, displacement is about shifting, and both are ways of like slipping past that watchful censor. What other tricks does our dream mind have up its sleeve?
Well, there's also symbolization, which we've already touched upon. It's the process of using concrete objects or actions to represent abstract ideas or emotions.
Like how that mountain in the policeman dream could symbolize ambition or challenges.
Exactly. But remember, there's no universal dream dictionary. The meaning of a symbol depends on the individual dreamer and their personal associations.
Which makes me think of those dream dictionaries you can buy at, like, any bookstore. It seems like they're really oversimplifying things,
Hmm.
promising these easy answers
Right.
when dream interpretation is obviously much more nuanced than that.
I agree. Those dictionaries can be a fun starting point, but they can't replace the deep personal work of exploring your own dream world.
It's like trying to understand a poem by just like looking up the dictionary definition of each word.
Right.
You kind of lose all the beauty, the subtlety, the emotional impact.
Precisely. To truly understand a dream, you need to engage with it on a personal level, to explore those individual layers of meaning.
So even though these dream work mechanisms are about distortion, they're also about protection, right? It's
Exactly.
like our dream mind is trying to find this delicate balance between fulfilling those desires and keeping our conscious mind safe.
Exactly. And that's where anxiety dreams come in. They're those dreams that wake us up in a cold sweat, our hearts pounding.
Oh, I know those dreams all too well. They're the ones that really stick with you even after you've woken up.
Freud believed that anxiety dreams are a warning system, a signal that those repressed desires are getting too close to the surface.
So the anxiety is like an alarm bell telling us that something's bubbling up from our unconscious that we might not be ready to face.
Exactly. And by waking us up, the anxiety actually prevents those unacceptable desires from fully emerging into our conscious awareness. It's like a safety valve releasing the pressure before things get too explosive.
Okay, so we have this complex interplay between desire, distortion, and protection happening in our dreams. How does our conscious mind even begin to make sense of it all?
That's where the process of dream interpretation comes in. It's about learning to listen to those whispers from our unconscious, to decipher those symbolic messages, and to understand the underlying dynamics that are driving our dreams.
It sounds like quite the challenge.
Mhm.
Are there any other tools or techniques that can help us on this journey of dream exploration?
Absolutely. We've talked about free association, but there's also dream amplification, where we try to expand on certain dream images or symbols to explore their potential meanings from different angles.
So it's about asking questions like, what else could this symbol represent? What other associations do I have with it? What emotions does it evoke?
Exactly. And don't be afraid to get creative. Try drawing the dream, writing a poem about it, or even acting it out. The more you engage with the dream, the more those hidden meanings will start to reveal themselves.
Wow, this is really making me rethink my whole approach to dreams. Instead of just dismissing them as random nonsense, I'm starting to see them as this valuable source of insight and self-discovery.
And that's precisely what Freud wanted to achieve. He wanted to elevate dreams to their rightful place as meaningful expressions of the human psyche.
Yeah, I feel like we've been given this whole new set of keys to unlock the secrets of our own minds. It's exciting, but also a little daunting. Where do we go from here? How do we start putting these tools into practice?
The first step is simply to pay attention. Start noticing those recurring themes, those unusual symbols, those intense emotions that show up in your dreams. Keep a dream journal and jot down those fleeting images as soon as you wake up.
And don't be afraid to get curious, right? Like, ask yourself, what might this dream be trying to tell me? What part of myself is it reflecting? What unresolved issues or unacknowledged desires might be bubbling up from my unconscious?
Exactly. And remember, dream interpretation is a process, not a destination. There's no right or wrong answer. It's about finding those interpretations that resonate with you, that help you understand yourself better.
This has been so insightful. I'm starting to see my own dreams in a whole new light, and I can't wait to start exploring them with these new tools. But what about those dreams that seem completely random? The ones that feel like a jumbled mess of images and emotions? Is there any meaning to be found in those?
Even those seemingly chaotic dreams can offer valuable insights. They might be reflecting the current anxieties or stresses you're experiencing in your waking life, or processing emotional residue from recent events.
So if I'm going through a particularly stressful time at work, my dreams might be a way of like processing those emotions and anxieties, even if they don't make logical sense.
Precisely. Our dreams often serve as a mirror to our waking lives, reflecting our emotional state, our preoccupations, even our physical health. They can offer a glimpse into those parts of ourselves that we might not be fully aware of.
This makes me think about the role of our physical bodies in dreams. Could our dreams actually be trying to tell us something about our physical health?
Yeah, that's a really fascinating question. And it makes me think, We've spent all this time on Freud, but
Yeah,
not everybody agrees with them, right? Like, were there other psychologists who had different takes on how to, like, think about dreams?
definitely. Freud's ideas were groundbreaking, but, they also sparked a lot of debate
Right.
and inspired other thinkers to explore dreams from different angles. And one of the most famous was Carl Jung,
Oh,
who
yeah.
actually started out as a follower of Freud.
Right. Okay, I've heard of Jung. Didn't he come up with those ideas about archetypes and, like, the collective unconscious?
That's him. While Freud focused on personal experiences, especially from childhood, Jung believed our dreams tap into something much larger, a kind of universal well of symbols and imagery
Right.
that all humans share.
Okay, so, like, if I dream about a snake, for Freud, that might be about, well, what we talked about.
But for Jung, it could mean something totally different.
Exactly. For Jung, the snake might represent transformation, healing, even primal energy. He'd connect it to myths and stories from across cultures, not just the dreamer's individual life.
So it's like these multiple layers, right, to dream interpretation. There's the personal Freudian layer, but also this broader Jungian layer that connects us to something bigger than ourselves.
And that's just one example. There are so many other approaches to dream work. Some focus on the emotional content of dreams, others on their potential for problem solving or creativity.
It seems like there's no one right way to interpret a dream. It's more about finding the approach that, resonates most with you.
Precisely. The meaning of a dream ultimately lies within the dreamer. The goal is to use these different perspectives as lenses, to explore your dream from different angles and see what insights emerge.
Okay, so no easy answers, no dream dictionaries that just, tell us what everything means. It's about using our intuition, our knowledge of ourselves, and maybe even exploring different schools of thought to find the meaning that feels most true.
Exactly. It's about becoming our own dream experts, learning to speak the language of our unconscious minds.
This whole deep dive has been such a fascinating journey. We've learned so much about, Freud, about the unconscious mind, about those sneaky dream work mechanisms. But before we wrap up, are there any final words of wisdom, any tips for our listeners who are ready to embark on their own, dream exploration?
Absolutely. First, be patient with yourself. Dream work is a process, and it takes time to develop those dream recall muscles and to learn how to interpret those symbolic messages.
And don't get discouraged if you don't remember your dreams every night, or if some dreams just seem, nonsensical or confusing. Just keep at it. Keep that dream journal handy,
Yeah.
and those insights will start to emerge.
And remember, the most important thing is to approach your dreams with curiosity and an open mind. Don't be afraid to ask questions, to explore different interpretations, and to trust your own intuition.
I love that trust your intuition. It's like we've been given this map to this vast, uncharted territory within ourselves. Now it's time to start exploring, to see where those green paths lead.
Precisely. And who knows what treasures you might uncover along the way.
Well, on that note, we'll wrap up our deep dive into this endlessly fascinating world of dreams. A huge thank you to our expert for being such a brilliant guide.
It's been my pleasure.
And to our listeners, sweet dreams and happy dreams.